Here to discuss the agenda confronting the House and Senate, Javier Manjarres, the managing editor of the Shark Tank political blog. Also joining us and Skyping in from Washington, D.C., Ari Rabin-Havt, the host of The Agenda and former advisor to Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Gentlemen, we thank you for your time on this Friday. Javier, let me turn to you first. Terrorism now seems to top the agenda. The Congress has said, or pardon me, the president's saying he's going to brief members of Congress about ISIS, but several Republicans on key committees have said they know nothing about this briefing session. Not a good way to get started with what confronts us here.
Well, what more can we expect from President Obama? He's kept the Congress in the dark with pretty much anything that has to do with foreign policy, and not to mention domestic policy. Look, I don't expect anything to come out of this. Again, this is President Obama's job to protect the American people and the country as a whole. He needs to act on against ISIS. It's in his purview to strike against ISIS. He's the commander-in-chief. This is what his job to do. So he doesn't have to go to Congress until after, I think, a 90-day period. So I think the Republicans, what they're going to do, they're going to firmly plant this on his head, and let's see what President Obama will do against ISIS. I don't think, but then again, back to what you asked me, I don't think he's going to do anything with the Congress. I don't think they're going to act or pass any legislation that'll authorize any kind of prolonged military action against ISIS in Iraq or in Syria, or both.
Well, there may be reticence to pass a resolution, and we had Frank Wolf on the program leading it earlier today, talking about the resolution he hopes to introduce in the House. But back to today's briefing, and Ari, I'm not here to sling partisan arrows. It is worth noting, during my days in Congress, Martin Frost, the Texas Democrat, as he evaluated the relationships between different presidents in Congress, he said that President Reagan, a Republican, was very considerate and solicitous of congressmen and senators. During my time in Washington, I'll tell you, one of the things the Clinton administration got right was cluing in the Congress, although they did not always agree with the Republicans. Is this whole notion of holding a briefing, but Republicans not knowing about it or not seeing it announced, that can be a real problem regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on.
Yeah, look, Congress should be informed. Now, I disagree with Javier. I think Congress should stand up and take a vote to authorize this action. I think the president shouldn't just rely on the 60 days he has in the War Powers Resolution plus 30 to pull out after, so total 90 days. I don't think the president should rely on the War Powers Resolution. If he wants to go to war against ISIS, he should go to Congress and get them to authorize that conflict, and I think that's the right thing to do. I think Congress has a role to play in our foreign policy. They are elected leaders by their constituents. They do have to answer to them in about 60 days now. So I think the president should go to Congress, and I think he should take if they don't authorize him to take action, then he shouldn't.
Well, I think the president should clean up the mess he's made, because ISIS is where it is because of President Obama's inactions, ineffective, and reckless foreign policy. It's simple as that. Yes, and I do agree with Ari in the sense that we do have to go to the Congress, but again, he doesn't have to right now. He is the commander-in-chief. He needs to start acting like one.
So, vis-a-vis the War Powers Act, he does have time to do whatever he chooses to do before consulting Congress. But Ari, what you just outlined, do you believe your former boss, Leader Reid, will suggest that to the president?
I mean, I have no idea what he'll suggest. I think Congress and the House and Senate should be involved. I think administration should be transparent with regard to foreign policy. It doesn't matter who's in office, a Republican, a Democrat, and who controls Congress, Republicans or Democrats. I think presidents have an obligation to keep Congress informed, and I think presidents have an obligation somewhat to keep the American people informed, and I think there are roles to play here. In Congress, look, the Constitution very specifically says only Congress has the power to declare war, and I think relying on the War Powers Act and saying, well, the president, he's got 60 days, take some responsibility off of Congress, which if Congress believes the president should go fight in Iraq, then Congress should authorize it.
And when you note the September agenda for the Republican Party, Javier, the new majority leader, Kevin McCarthy, mentions really nothing about what's going on. Now, it's true a senior Republican, Frank Wolf, is going to introduce a resolution in the House. Do you imagine in the Republican conference the leadership will try to ask Congressman Wolf to cool it?
I don't know what he's going to do. I don't think much is going to come out of the House, not to mention the entire Congress. I don't think, again, I think they're just going to lay this on Obama's lap and let him figure this out. And back to the first point, who are we declaring war against? We're not declaring war against Syria or Iraq. We're supposedly thinking about declaring war against a terrorist organization. That's not declaring war. They're not. I don't know if that adheres to the War Powers Act, but again, he should be bombing the heck out of these people into submission. And again, and then if we decide to further military action, I think then he should go to Congress. But I think McCarthy is right. I think in a lot of members of Congress, and I've spoken to several members of Congress this past couple of weeks, and they don't see anything coming out of this. They don't trust the president. They don't think that he's going to work with them in any regard. So I think they're just going to let Obama run with this and see what he comes of. And if he wants to bring them into the fold, so be it. But they don't have confidence. I don't have confidence in the president. He's going to actually work with the Congress this time around on this.
Well, let's turn to another troublesome story that's out there and topic for discussion, and that is what is transpiring on our borders. Ari, we've talked about this issue a lot of times before. It appeared the president was going to take some bold action. Now he appears to be backing off. What do you think the president may do via executive order? Will he do anything before the midterm elections?
I frankly would hope he would do something, but I doubt he will. I think members of Congress would, Democrats in particular, would ask him not to do anything before the midterm elections right now, because I think everyone's would ask their leadership not to do anything because they don't want to have to deal with those issues following up. But I would hope the president would do something because, frankly, immigration, this is stalled for far too long. We know it's a problem, and we know Congress isn't going to do anything about it, so it's time for executive action.
Let me ask you, Javier. John Boehner, Speaker of the House, gave an interview on radio saying, well, it's fine if the president wants to wait on this. It can be acted on next year. And it sounded again like Speaker Boehner was advocating some sort of comprehensive immigration reform. Now, that approach, is that going to win votes for Republicans going into the midterms?
Well, I don't think they're going to lose votes. I think the Republicans are in position to gain a lot of votes in the House and possibly take over the Senate. But again, President Obama's hedge on immigration reform is very telling in that he knows that this is going to play against his party, and he's trying to maybe mitigate some of that damage the Republicans are going to do. But what I think is kind of funny is that these wizards of smart, as Rush Limbaugh would call them, I mean, I don't understand this. Why are they trying to reinvent this whole immigration reform enchilada? What's the problem here? Why don't they just go back and enforce these bipartisan laws that already exist? It's not rocket scientists. I don't see what Boehner and them are doing here. I mean, Boehner is playing obviously to this moderate Republican base, his moderate Republican base, and he's trying to, again, try to show force on immigration reform, but he's just showing weakness. I mean, immigration reform will hurt both parties depending on how it's attacked.
Less than 2 minutes remain. It appeared for a time that the continuing resolution that has to be taken care of by September 30th, it appeared that was going to be contentious. But if both sides are backing off on the border, does that make it easier to get a CR through, given where we are in terms of the clock in the campaign? About 1:30 remains. Ari, to you first, and then we'll go to Javier.
Sure. Quickly, look, I think everyone wants to get the hell out of Washington campaign. Nobody wants a shutdown fight. So I think the contentious issues, be they the Import-Export Bank and immigration, will be pushed to the side so people can get the CR done and stall it till after the election.
Ari, Javier, what's your take on it?
I agree wholeheartedly with Ari, believe it or not, and he's right. I mean, they're not going to touch this. I mean, no one wants a government shutdown. It's a losing issue for Republicans. They saw what happened last year and the year before that. They're not going to touch this. I think if there is a shutdown, it'll be after November, maybe January, February of next year.
Well, it's glad to see a rare note of unanimity between you gentlemen. To Ari Rabin-Havt, the former advisor to Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and to Javier Manjarres, who writes the Shark Tank political blog. Gentlemen, we thank you very much. Javier, we're going to have you back in a little while to talk about that new State Department video, but for now, that four-letter word time gets in our way, so we thank you both for your time right now. You heard what Ari and Javier had to say about Washington. Does it upset you to hear things about, we got to delay it till the next election? Why don't you tweet me your comments at NewsmaxTV, hashtag America's Forum. There's also NewsmaxTV.com/comment, and don't forget Facebook.